What's up, guys? We're back. We're going to be doing another Aspect Emperor discussion with Madness. This will be part 3. So, for those that don't know, there's been 2 other parts already. You can go check those out, but also know these are very spoiler heavy, like entire series spoilers. So, if you don't want to know, back out now. But let's give it to the man of the hour, Madness.
Hello, Red. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, brother.
Good. Is it still winter up there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's cold as shit right now.
It's coming down here too. Maybe it comes from you all the way down to me in Canada or whatever. All right. So we got unfortunately no more Penguin Canada covers. So my Great Ordeal and my Unholy Console are the works of horror that involve this weird face. I they are personally my least favorite covers. I really wish, I don't know if you've seen or if listeners have seen the David Rankin covers, the ones that are script. Have I ever talked to you about this before? Do you know the
uh,
story behind these?
I don't know if I do. I've seen some people's like hard covers that have like they're kind of like plain, but they have all that script written all over them, which I thought they were
Oh,
just awesome.
I got my thousandfold thought one right here. And so I mean, there's a better. I don't know if this one has the internal jacket or not, and it's not really that important. No, I guess it does. Yeah, actually, this one is signed too. Um, that I didn't ask him for that. He just wrote that himself. If you can read it there out loud, did you read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thought 111 and
111
counting.
counting. Yeah.
So,
That's
but
nice.
this script back here and on these covers for the Penguin Canada covers, so Darkness was black, Warrior Prophet was yellow, and then Thousand Volt Thought was red. Um, David Rankin is a local artist down near where Baker grew up in St. Thomas and London, and he actually, and you'll appreciate this, I think, or if I've clocked you right, you will. But over those script, and he also developed I think Wilshire was the one who figured this out eventually, or whatever. But David Rankin also figured out the script in the books, like in through Prince of Nothing, right, where it's like a Camian's map and stuff.
Right.
So, anyways, the covers of those original Penguin Canada books are King Crimson lyrics that are like transliterated onto the covers of Darkness That Comes Before, Warrior Prophet, and Thousand Volt Thought.
Ah.
I don't know the key. Baker and Rankin are the only 2 people in the world that know the key, and no one's ever figured out how to like transcribe it or anything or transliterate it. I believe it's called, but yeah, just a neat one. But I always wondered what he would have done like with these kind of covers for the Aspect Emperor, right? Because we talked about last time iconography and stuff,
Yeah.
and the idea of what would have been the Great Ordeal one, which I think the Ameolus, I think someone commented
Yeah,
on
someone
the
sent the
yeah
Ameolus, and I can't
yeah
like I think that's just that would have been perfect.
yeah it would have been a really good one. And then obviously, yeah, we talked about TUC, but I couldn't help but wonder what the Rankin ones would have looked like eventually, right? Like
Right. I know you always
yeah
wonder. I see
yeah
some
yeah
really cool like foreign covers
well,
for
the Russian ones that are coming out right now, they're in your Discord, I believe. They're
yeah, I
being
saw one
put
in
out.
my
Yeah,
Discord, and then yeah, a while back somebody I don't
dude,
know
the
if
Great
it's
Ordeal.
Polish or where
It's
it's
Russian.
from,
It's
but there's a
Russian.
Prince of Nothing one, which kind of like
Oh,
it gets like some people really like it and some people hate it. But I mean, because some people think it's cheesy looking. I actually love it. I'm in that camp for it.
I want to let you know right now, or anyone listening, if they've done their homework, whatever. But Baker fans, who is an actual person, not a collective of us. It was one person. I believe he's actually uh, on the back of this book. Yeah, Baker fans. With The Great Ordeal, the penultimate book in the Aspect Emperor series, Baker begins to betray the final mysteries of his cosmos, feeding and goading readers more than in any of the preceding novels. A most haunting pleasure. So
Hmm.
Baker fans is actually probably going to be the preacher at my wedding or whatever. But he he's got a very very sermon voice. But he started like there's any kind of social media that there exists out there has a Baker fans account. So there's a Pinterest Baker fans account where he's collected covers over the years. And I feel like I know the one you're talking about, but I just want to say the ones that Dash has been posting in your Discord or whatever, which I mean, we can link around and stuff, or people can find them, but I'm just dropping things for people as we're talking about the cover art of the Great Ordeal. That Soban one was haunting, man. Where like you can see the hand. I mean, the Unholy Console one's really good too, but the Great Ordeal one was like it's the Mangata battle, or yeah, because it can't be Dagliash because they'd be on the. We're gonna talk about that soon. But like so it's that vision from Warrior Prophet where like Baker in 2 sentences reaches across 5 fucking books to just break our hearts.
Yeah. Goddamn.
Okay, well with that, what did you think about the Great Ordeal on your second read?
My second read, I'll tell you this, like it cleared up a lot of things that were when I first read it, I was kind of confused. I had a hard time kind of visualizing where the fuck I was at. Because sometimes it gets a little chaotic or just a little strange, and it's hard to really it was really hard to place myself.
With the Ordeal, we start at Anatorial or whatever, which apparently is the mountain where, well, it is where Kellhus declares that we're going to eat meat, right? And then it's also apparently the mountain where the Burnt Prophet, and again, I can't ever remember these names. It's like Similarian style or whatever, but like Angresho or whatever, the one who bows before Husalt and makes like when they break the gates and like he makes the pact with Husalt the hunter to like go after the non-men and stuff, whatever. But it's apparently the same mountain or whatever. So they move. Great Ordeal, actually, I don't think people understand this so much, whatever. But really, like the ordeal part of it is a very limited geography, right? Like because now they're in the thick of it, right? The horde is backed up. You know, they're eating their enemy. You know, we might as well just start with this because that's so anyways, go on. You were
I mean,
capitalizing on this.
Definitely like the second time around I definitely got like bearings that I was struggling to get the first time through. But yeah, I mean, at least when it starts off, I mean, I believe it really starts off with the meat, right? Isn't that how it kind of kicks us off? And so the thing is I do really like this because it's something we're gonna get hit with a lot. But it's like the first rumblings of the meat. They're eating it, and you even get that like little rumor, like, hey, maybe this is fucking with us. Maybe it's changing.
I think everyone who I mean, most fans who followed along, you make it to like you're through White Look Warrior, and then for those of us who are contemporary, it was a couple years before like things kind of came out that way. Which I have a story to tell later on, maybe at the end or whatever. But so I think that a lot of us contemporarily, not me, but people around me or whatever, certainly called that they were gonna like declare the meat eating, right? Like that they were gonna eat Shrank because Baker, even from Judging Eye, he makes this through line of like food. Like like again, like as we'll get to Unholy Console when Stackeries or whatever asks Sakamian, like, well, like, how'd you get here, wizard? Like, you ate something, right? Like, yeah. So I think it was assumed by a lot of readers, but then coming into the Great Ordeal, the first 4 chapters of this book are fucking brutal. I want to say that, like full swear, like just brutal. Like it's either the Ordeal, or then we'll get to the walk with like, or the hop, skip, and a jump with Serwa and Moangus the Younger and Sorweel. But like right away, Kellhus is, and this is actually where I wanted to lead anyways, but Kellhus is basically just telling Proyas the truth.
Yes.
Like eat meat. Okay, first we're gonna eat meat, and then Proyas, come over to my tent and like let's talk about how I'm spying on the Ordeal, and I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, and that's where where it's like all bets are off, for Proyas, right? At that point, where we had kind of saw like the beginning of Kellhus kind of like doing like almost like a de-grooming of Proyas.
De-grooming,
you know what I mean? Like, or grooming.
He almost talks about it that way, actually.
You know what I mean? Or like in another, but like that, because that kind of starts with the White Luck. But here, by this point, it's like you said in the last one, the pulling the curtain back on Oz, like it's like he fully, what is he? I think he mentioned like calls it like pulling his coin or whatever. Like,
So yeah, I was just gonna bring that up because you hit upon it perfectly. He's got, so this is also where we get Kellhus's perspective, or whatever amounts to Kellhus's perspective at this point, because he, calls himself the place and stuff. Like he's fully like on one at this point. But yeah, so the tracery where the Dunyan who get to sire sons have to capture a falling leaf with a coin, whatever. And then Kellhus talks about how he's got to lift the coin off the leaf that's Proyas, so that Proyas may, as we'll get to, float where he may or whatever, right?
yes,
Make some impossible decisions. All
God,
the while Coyotes is right there beside him, kind of like feeding him bullshit and shit, right? But yeah. Yeah, and then there was another thing too I wanted to get into before we kind of skip. I'm going to hop skip around, obviously, as we did last time. But so kind of if we're going to keep one through line just at the start here, Proyas has these meetings, whatever, and then runs to Soban, and I love the line of what is he called, the line
yeah.
that was no Lion of Caiaphas was Compass.
That's Compass. He's the is he the Lion of Gallios?
Is there really two lions?
Is
Did
he? Is
Baker
he the
do that?
Lion?
And when we just like, yeah. Anyways, I don't really care, but that's going to be interesting if someone catches that. Either way, Proyas
Yeah,
goes to Soban, and literally, Soban, like, I just love the moment where he's Proyas, did you really think that he was the only one he was talking to about this? Like, Soban takes the
yeah,
totally different stance, and he's like, dude,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, we're supposed to be brothers, like,
Yeah, I
right? Like,
love
we're the
that. Am I
Exalted
not a
Ones,
believer
like,
king too, brother? Like that. That was really. I love that part because I mean, it's for me. I'm a big Proyas fan, and I thought it was good though that you kind of get to see that side from Saban, and really too, like he even says something, mentions he's like, you kind of prize
well,
your.
Proyas goes and hides between the tents, and then Soban comes and like basically Kellhus told me to look for you here, and here you are, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he
yeah,
tells him, he's like, you kind of prize yourself being his pet, you know what I mean? And you have to
yeah.
you have to realize, like, yeah, you're not the only one he speaks to,
Well, and so a thing I wanted to say there as well is that Soban, there's a different subtle wording between the draft and the book itself, which I have to, because I read the drafts so many times of the latter two books here, or whatever. It kind of confuses me sometimes, but essentially he basically says like we all have roles to play, right? And we don't know which role we're going to play, and unfortunately for Soban, he ends up being like the sacrifice or whatever, right? Like, and then Proyas could be like the Judas, quote unquote, or something, right? Yeah. Okay, and then one thing I told you I was going to bring this up last time, actually, but so the way Baker writes, and he writes out of order, or at least he's admitted that going back more than 15 years ago, whatever. But a lot of his sections, like when they first start talking about all the different ways that the three C's cultures, kind of butcher and cook the meat, um, that could have been a short story in and of itself, right? Like, I don't know what your thoughts on were about that before we leave the ordeal here, but
I mean, I love it because honestly, I mean, I guess I just as soon as like that ending of the White Luck Warrior really left that weird twisted question in my head, like what the hell would they even taste like? And I love that there's like it goes into this like preparate, like how each person like preps it differently, and it also makes sense though too. It's like, yeah, like because the ordeal is vastly like all these different kinds of cultures of people, right? So it like why wouldn't some of them have a different approach to it? I'm a big fan
loved it.
of the Sepulorian the Sepulorian recipe after Rayolith. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Okay, we gotta skip obviously to the Neom. We got
Yes.
Sorweel and Serwa and Moangus, and that trifecta of, I don't know if I can lay the land for us here. Kellhus has obviously instructed Serwa and Moangus to like make Sorweel hate them or whatever. Moangus, for whatever reason, and I don't know if this is another question we can address later or whatever, but I don't know if again if there's something like special about the Skillvendi, or if Moangus, or if anyone, that's not half done yet or done yet can see through the mask. Because it almost strikes me that Moangus the Younger is actually the only one who can see through Sorweel's mask. Like, not because Escalese, like everyone kind of like, even Sasranga, as we talked about for 2 books, Zasranga believes that he's still a believer king, but because Sorweel's face like can't say anything but because of Yatwer's mask or whatever, right? So I asked you about this last time, but either way, let's just start off with here we are, literally on the yellow brick road to fucking Ishterebinth or whatever.
Yeah. And it's like it's a little disturbing for our boy, right? Because Serwa and Moangus are going at it, and we're watching this like
That was the end of Warrior,
we're
story.
kind, and we know that like this while we've been following Sorweel, we've gotten his perspective, and you can tell like one way or the other, he's like developing this these feelings towards Serwa, right? Like, I mean, you can't deny it. Like, whether they're like, whatever. So, I mean, it's easy to see he gets all riled up real easy, right? And I love that he's like trying.
He's also a teenager too. It's almost like puppy love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
That's what it reminds
Yeah.
me of. Like, I'm not saying that it wasn't like love, but maybe it was like it's a young person trying like their perception of love.
He obviously didn't date before his dad died, and
Yeah,
became
yeah.
like
It was like the first girl that like he struck a fancy with, kind of deal. Well, but yeah, what a rough ride. Kind of having
go on. I can go.
Having to watch the girl you're crushing on screw her brother would probably not be the best the best road trip.
So as we're doing the jumps here, though, on top of that, because that's actually important, Moangus is, telling her like, this guy is not like there's something wrong here, right? Like she's like, oh, he doesn't hate us enough before we get to the neon or whatever, right? She even compels him at some point, or does some version of that.
Yeah.
But Moangus the Younger is like, he clearly hates, like, and she's like, no, he doesn't, like, right? Like, it's just this whole dance, like.
Yeah, and it's funny because now that you mention these other people, it does make it kind of more of a question, because I was always just like, well, yeah, because he's not a true Anasarimber, so that's why he can see through. But then there's all those other people that are not Anasarimbers, and they can't necessarily see
well, we have a nice bookend on this one when talk about the skill
yeah,
Vendi,
that's
so
kind
we'll
of
get there.
interesting.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
is it skill Vendi thing, or is it even like I mean, is Moangus a little mad like his father? Is it a fucking, do the mad see through the fucking insanity of the the sane world? I don't know. I mean,
no, we're getting there. We were already skipped a couple chapters in the ordeal, but for Serwa and stuff. So like, what did you think about the compulsion? Because she does like a Gnostic, like basically makes Sorweel like shit his pants, and like Yatwer somehow protects him and stuff, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she finally listens to Moangus, and she's like, all right, fine. You know what? I'll like compel him. I'll like, sorcerously interrogate him and stuff. And like there's italics in there. I would have to read the passage or whatever, but like it is just literally something kind of happens where he just like essentially poops his pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really interests me in terms of, I mean, since Zinimus, that's the first time we've seen compulsions, right? Or really like someone compelling someone else. I know that we have a version of that, or like a kind of like prosaic version of that with Moangus the Younger and the non-men when they're being interrogated later, but we're jumping ahead on that. But it does interest me that compulsions didn't really come up so much during the latter half of the series and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Huh.
Okay, we got to move on to the Awama.
Yeah, poor bastards.
So so they're coming out of the forest and stuff, and they're like the mansion, and then there's that broken kind of, I don't know, highway up to the front doors or whatever, and then they're all like they're still scurrying about, feeding their non-men overlords and stuff, like after all this time, which I found very interesting, and especially after what Mamara saw in Kellhus, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is like once like we get to Ishterebinth, I have to admit, like even reading this thing twice, some of the Ishterebinth stuff is just like, what the fuck just happened?
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But the Awama, man, poor motherfuckers, man. That's a brutal existence. Like you said, they're still there feeding the fucking non-men. It's like
Well, in terms of like a one book thing, like the Judging Eye shows us a dead mansion, right? And then Great Ordeal shows us a living mansion. I mean, living is putting it generously, I'm sure, whatever. But like,
yes.
as we
Yes.
get through, yeah, yeah.
But
Oh
yeah,
my
so this is my
goodness.
thing though. When they get there, like they go through like the gateway in is like a portal.
I think it's just literally just like broken Roman architecture or something, right? Just
Okay.
like yeah. But what really interested me is obviously the Mwama are like farming. I know this is such a tedious point, but they're like farming out of the mansion essentially, right? And like or whatever. They like those pigs have to be raised somewhere.
Yeah. 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 They go through a lot of pigs.
Yeah, and then they get up there and the Nin family tree of non-men. So
Oh.
going all the way back to yeah, the original betrayer, Nin Jan Jin or whatever, and then puppet of the Vile sitting on the throne. But essentially like they just basically like we were here to honor the Neom, and then the Mwama like they bow and then they beat them over the back of the head and they get them captured essentially. Is that how that starts?
Is that how they end up like going blacked out or
So
whatever?
essentially what happens is that Serwa's talking to the emissary or whatever. They say something about honoring the Neom or whatever, and then Serwa tells like Moangus and Sorweel to bow down or whatever, and like just honor like this non-men, whatever. And then the non-men say a word or something, and then Yamwama just pull out little billy clubs and start fucking like beating them down until they pass out and they capture them and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I
Okay.
mean, I suppose maybe is the culture in Esmenet, right? That's as is tradition in Esmenet. Oh goodness. And then we have I mean I don't want to rush you or whatever, but
No, you're good.
unless you have more to say before we get into Esmenet, I feel like we gotta leave
Yeah.
that
So
for a
at that
bit.
point, okay. So is is this still the same point where like Sorweel is kind of like blinking in and out of thought, and like he's being questioned, or is that later?
That's later. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
later. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're not there yet. The Amulus is not
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The drums are beating in Monmen.
Oh fuck yes.
Mathenet's just gotten killed. You
Right.
know, Esmenet's, kind of
Yes.
like,
Oh
yeah,
man, and like the one thing, and then you got Kelmomis is in the fucking vents or whatever, fucking sniping trial knights and fucking chewing on them and fucking.
I don't know if you've ever read Ender's Game when Kelmomus is killing like Shriel guards and exploring the inner labyrinth of the Andyamine Heights and stuff. If anyone's ever read Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game or the Bean Shadow series or whatever, in the Shadow series, there's kind of a similar thing going on in the space station with a bunch of like psychopathic kids or whatever killing each other and whatnot, or at least trapping each other in these. It reminded me of it very much to the point that I wonder if Baker hasn't read that set of series, but I never get straight answers from him in terms of like what the influences are. Right? He tends to be mysterious that way, but.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we got Kelmomus running around being a fucking just a complete asshole, whatever.
Nightmare.
um, we have Esmenet trying to, she's got to tend to the fact that the Phantom have emerged and they are surrounding Mamen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mathanet's dead, the Shri is dead. She's kind of taken on both the religious and the imperial, mantle in both ways. And yeah, what I don't know. What are your thoughts, sir? What are your thoughts?
For me, I love this because this for like I felt like in White Luck Warrior, the moment thread was cooking up, and like this is where we got shit boiling, right at this point, and it's great. And I like that Esmenet is really like just suddenly, because with Mathanet gone, she's now like the old like fucking only one really in charge.
What'd you say last time? She's gonna speak oil, right?
Yeah, and that's
She's
what
gonna
she
speak
has to
oil.
do, which is
Yeah.
like it's kind of I mean, for me, I guess it depends on where you lie or with which characters you like and whatnot. But I mean, if you're a fan of Mathanet, it's like it's a sad like fucking little deal because you're like, fuck, that's a good dude. But just now she's got to fucking run a smear campaign on his ass, and he's fucking freshly dead. Like, goddamn, like it's pretty
Well,
brutal.
she even like at the end of White Like Warrior or whatever, she even turns in that moment to speak oil and like convinces everyone who all the witnesses that just saw them like reconcile. She's like, nope, like Kellhus did this. The Aspect Emperor took out his brother, right? Like, yeah, and then has to run from there or whatever. What did you think about the meeting between she's up on the everyone almost gets taken out here. She Chora's Mapa,
Yeah, so that's
right?
one
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so like the Phantom kind of like pull like a trap, right? Using the
Hmm.
water bear. Like they
I
just
feel like this is our first evidence of like Shook glamours, right? Like masking who the person is, right? Because
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
appears
Well,
as
dude,
yeah,
was there somebody that does it in Prince of Nothing?
yeah. So there's there are glamours, and I can't remember off the top of my head or whatever, but as far as we've understood it, they were anagogic or gnostic, right?
Gotcha.
Like
Okay.
they yeah, right. So that we hadn't seen evidence of like Shook glamours before this point.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I guess Malahat, like Moangus the Elder, yeah, in Darkness Comes Before, superimposes Skorus's face
Yeah, that's like maybe
over
like
his
that's what
own.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking of. Yeah. All these face
but
changings.
yeah, but Mapa, like at first, Esmenet even thinks Skin Spy, right? She thinks it's like a Skin Spy impersonating Fanniel, and then it's Mapa. Yeah, this is also the first instance too. Like as that battle goes on, uh, he does that when he gets pierced with arrows and she throws the Korra past him and it kind of like I guess like fucks with his wards or whatever you want to call them, but he like floats back and out like kind of like I don't know, like the Harry Potter villains in like movie 5 or something where they like smoke around or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Death
right,
Eaters
like
flying around or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's an interesting one. So what like obviously like Fanniel is being played right. He's got Satma in tow.
Yeah, but
Satma's
and
yeah,
it's
fucking with him.
yeah, but you see
Like...
that Fanal is just like he's kind of so full of himself that he kind of is in a way like he's not a dummy, but it's this ego thing that can kind of make him easily manipulated by Satma. Like Satma's really playing everybody really on like that's
She
you know what I
even
mean?
says in White Luck Warrior that she's been delivered to this place, right? Like Baker talks about her standing there in chains and everyone else is kind of like bowing down to her metaphorically or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, like when she's caught, she's laughing and shit.
yeah.
Uh yeah. So after after uh after Esmenet smokes the water bear or whatever, like for Nile, that's like when you first see him like actually kind of like
Freaking out. And we see
yeah,
it
because
through
before that he's just like I'm the chosen one, dude. Like it's all gonna fucking happen for me. Like I'm the motherfucking dude.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
now like with that going down, he's literally like realizing that he's got no chance. Like everything that was supposed to just roll out and be fucking, plucked like low hanging fruit has now become a fortified, impenetrable fucking deal. And his
We
like
we we see that through Malawebe too, right? There's a lot of
right.
factions going on there, right? Yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah. Through
like and I like how Melawebi's like cursing Lacaro, which only gets better.
I still do wonder. I don't know where I'm at on this one, but like I really feel like Baker would eventually go for like good guy Lacaro. Like he's just the nicest dude. Like we've all been like poisoned by Malawebe's fucking hate
Yeah.
for or
He's been
whatever.
speaking oil or whatever.
But But funny enough, and we'll get back to this because I'm going to move on. But like the Fanniel just keeps begging for the Sakatan ships, right? He just wants Zaem's ships. Just we can win this now. Like just attack the port. And Malawebe is like, no, we're not. We don't have proof of like that you're gonna do anything here, right? Like he's the second negotiant or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Malawebe's own little journey here, which I'm gonna skip ahead here or whatever for a minute, but he the Wero or whatever, right? The idea of like being accursed or being God entangled or whatever. When the gods take interest in you, like you're no one wants to be involved, right?
Right.
And Malawebe is slowly realizing over the Great Ordeal that that's kind of his position, or his fated, to be fated.
Yeah, I love how he likes real like he knows his situation at that point, and he's trying to slink away from from it all.
That's a little bit later, yeah, for sure. So all right, let's finally we have Akamian and Mamara.
Yeah,
And another dead place.
and Ishwal. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, it's all fucked up, right? And it's not exactly what you were hoping for, at least not for them.
I feel like Baker picks it up really, really pretty quick. Like he lets you dangle for like a page or two, and
yeah,
we have that new dream too. Well, hold on, two things. Let's do the new dream first, and then get to Ishwal. So there's that new dream where that chapter opens up, and it's the first time we've seen Akamian and Mamara since they've discovered Ishwal, and it is the dream of Nai Coyote, right? Because he started dreaming other people's dreams now and stuff. And so it's when he takes. Yeah, go on. You got it.
This is the dream that where not now Coyote basically finds out that he's been kind of like poisoned by his wife.
That one's at the end of White Lip Warrior, I'm pretty sure. This one is the one where he's chained to the
okay, 10... so then he's talking to like Orang or
Soriatis or whatever. Yeah, Soriatis. Like the source, yeah.
And I mean, and so yeah, now he's all like confined, chained up, and they're telling him they're gonna do some horrible shit to him.
And they're basically on this like floating elevator up through one of the horns, right? To the golden room, essentially, right?
Yeah, and he's like, I mean, obviously, like now Coyote doesn't know what the fuck is going on, really. He's a prisoner.
And he's hearing the circle of voices.
Oh.
Yeah, they've got like they're like what's the Black Knight from Holy Grail?
Oh yeah.
They're all like that, just speaking in rotation or something. Like oh goodness. Yeah, and then obviously, he's being talked to and about how his wife's betrayed him, and she's obviously like this is another thing too. Do you think that the consult just dragged regular people and made them look at the inverse fire to see if they would like, if you sinned, you would work through the consult at some point or whatever? Like, because they must have been recruiting Mangekka and stuff from the old world. This is a dream going back,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would think so. I mean, I would think that the consult was doing everything. You know what I mean? Trying to fucking see what the fuck. Because they definitely, I know that later on it talks about how they tried putting shit tons of people in the sarcophagus.
Well, they even talk about the well of the aborted in terms of Inkori that they tried to graft for different things, and they just had to
right.
Yeah.
But one thing that's because we find out later, but we're not there yet. But it's just like they know that everybody, especially even the strongest warriors, when they touch that or look at the inverse fire or whatever, the goading.
Yeah, the goading.
Yeah, shit. I think this Ishwal part is like it's just so much. Okay, so you get hit with that dream, and you're also like you get hit with the fact that Ishwal is fucking in ruins.
Yeah, and then that's what I was gonna say before is that very quickly, he takes like a couple pages, but there's Shrank Bones, right? And like Kamian's like, no, wait, okay, the console did this. It wasn't like because he's worried that Kellhus came out and like took out his forebears or whatever, right? Like,
yep. I mean, and that's just one more like sign of this like obsession. You know what I mean? That Kamian's fucking gotta know, or that and he'll start fucking making shit up to make sense of things. And yeah, where he starts to think that Kellhus just was spying on him and knows all about all his shit that he did in the tower, and he's thwarted his efforts before he could get there, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, then you see an army of fucking dead Shrink bodies.
The well, go on. Sorry, you were gonna say
Which is
something.
like interesting, I think, for at least a reader, because you might, I mean, like for me, it was just like, what the fuck? Well, why are all these goddamn Shrink here? But then I also remember, like, right after that question, I remember back in like the Warrior Prophet, like the very end of the Warrior Prophet, we're up north and they're fucking doing horrible shit to people, asking about the Dune Yane. So we know that the fucking console.
It makes sense. Yeah.
That we know that the console has known about the Dune Yane, and they've been looking for him at least ever since the Warrior Prophet. And there's a 20-year
basically
gap
since
between
they were watching Nayer and right stuff, right? Like because Nayer called him the Dunyan and
Yeah, so I mean, as much as at first I was like, what the fuck? All of a sudden it kind of clicked for me the first time, I was reading it. It was just like, oh yeah, oh shit, like what the fuck happened, and for a minute I was worried that like they were just gonna like pass on and just keep trudging, you know what I mean? But they find Kamian finds that way in, right? Like through the pits or whatever.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then
And
once
then
they're
Mamara thankfully has, I don't know if you like the Minotaur labyrinth from like ancient Greek or whatever, ancient Roman mythology, or whatever. But Mamara is like, these are Dunyan halls or whatever. So they mark the way or whatever, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, because this is that's the thousand halls, right?
That's where they tested the Dunyan have to walk in and like remember where they go to such a point that they have to make it back or whatever, right? Like there was a lot of speculation in the past about whether or not they were pre-existing non-men halls or not. Which again, I have no real stake in the game there or whatever, but it's just an interesting thought. But in terms of servicing like our time here and stuff, because we've got about half left, I believe. The survivor and the boy.
Okay. So obviously Crab Hand Boy is he's cute.
He's cute.
Because there's like this like weird innocence about him. Or it's like this he's almost like the Curious George of the fucking Dune Yane. He's like
so the survivor's the man in the yellow hat?
Yeah, the survivor is the man in the yellow hat. Who's been keeping a Curious George alive all these years.
Damn, man. All right. You give me a whole new perspective. Quinthane. I suspect that. Yeah. I want a survivor in a yellow hat and Curious the boy on his back.
But yeah, I mean, this is what ultimately they'll reinforce that, like how tricky the Dune Yane are. Because here it is like especially as we just dig a little further now, like where we're at, like into Ishwal and find more about the Dune Yane, especially when Mara her judging eye opens, you know what I mean? And we know she's saying that the Dune Yane are pure fucking evil.
The whale mothers,
the whale mothers, which is pretty fucking brutal. But we're also, it's part of this thing. This kind of like goes back into the whole, like a lot of that transhumanism shit that you got hit with in Darkness, like a lot through like the teachings and stuff like that.
I actually like. I mean, we could talk about that for hours, and maybe we'll do something different later or whatever. But realistically, like, I don't have it straight from him by any stretch of the imagination, but that transhumanism thing runs through all these works, especially with like the Encore and the Technique and stuff, right? Skin Spies, Strength, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but I mean, in so many ways, Tolkien was dealing with like mythology and stuff, whatever, but Baker in his own way is dealing with technology, right? Like, yeah. Anyways, go on. I didn't mean to like sidetrack.
No, that's a good point.
Look that stuff up.
Yeah,
people can look that up and stuff, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you're getting like, you get hit with all these like facts, you know what I mean, about the Dune Yane, and you're like, fuck, man, they are you know what I mean, logical or not, like it's cold as fuck. You know, they're pretty cold at a cold-blooded race, you know, when it boils down to it. They're not as warm as the Inkoroi, who are a race of lovers.
Yeah.
But I mean, but then you're looking like, you know, so I know this as the reader. I have like meta fucking knowledge and everything, you know, and I still find this little boy innocent, you know, and even like for a little further down the deal, you know, where he feigns his like where he's told to like feign being scared.
Simulate
Yes,
love and terror or whatever. Yeah,
and
yeah,
the fucked
yeah.
up thing is you're even reading that and you're like, it doesn't, like, at least for me it didn't matter, like I know what they're doing and yet I still felt like, oh no. Like, Crabman boy, don't get smoked, you know. It's
Well, the survivor does say at some point that he would have been declared defective if not for like the attack, right? So like maybe like they had, well, obviously they used the defectives for like the face peeling room and stuff and whatever else, right?
that neuropuncture and all that.
Yeah, of course, right? Because you gotta like, yeah, whatever.
You got to
Done
use
men
them for
gonna done
something,
men.
man.
Yeah.
We got these parts, let's fucking put them in work.
Something that actually is curious to me, and I don't want to get lost on this because I do want to move on, but uh Mamara seems to see the events of something that goes on in the whale mother room, right? Like it's almost like kind of like she did in Kellhus in terms of like seeing the Awama trapped in, like she like sees the hauntings or something or whatever, like sees the I don't know, like it all kind of, there's something weird going on with her, and I can't figure it out for the fucking life of me.
Right. Well, I also think that, yeah, because it is a little strange, but it's one of those things I just kind of chopped it up to Baker being Baker, you know.
Baker,
You're kind of
yeah.
having it a little like weird, ambiguous, or just, you know, just like unclear. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. So then, but then
I'm
you
gonna
get hit
keep
with
us. I'm gonna keep
the
us on pace.
Survivor. I'll say this right now though too. Like, I love this, like all this stuff we're getting hit with, because it's like you kind of feel like when you're seeing Ishwal, you're like, well, fuck, then they're all dead. But there are some left alive, and you're like, for somebody who's reading this series, you're like, oh, maybe we're gonna get some
See,
answers.
he pulls. I'm honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm just dumb or if Baker's smart, but he pulls something really obvious there, where because he calls the fucking character the survivor, we assume that he's the last one and that
Right.
the consul wouldn't have fucking taken prisoners, right? Like,
Yeah.
and he leaves us with that for a fucking book and a half, or whatever. But like, literally, so I don't know if I'm dumb or if like he's just smart,
It's
or
a
if you
smart
guys are
way
smart. If
to
you like, right? Like,
it would definitely, it's a smart way to
it
keep
totally
people
suckered us.
off a
It
fucking
suckered
trail.
me.
Yeah,
It
because
suckered me, man. Like, even he gave it to us in thousandfold thought that Moangus would, even though I have my own opinions about Moangus the Elder, but like he suckered us there. Whereas like Moangus the Dunyan would obviously join the console, and Kellhus is like, I am more, or whatever. And then, oh, Israel's destroyed, and the survivor's he's the last one, or the boy's the last one. Like, no big deal, right, guys? Like, and obviously we have next episode for that one or whatever.
yes.
But okay, uh, the taking of the mountains towards Dagliash, because now we got to do Dagliash.
God damn. So is this, have we already passed Raolith?
We can do that then on the way there. Yeah, that would be a good one. So
Yeah.
on the way towards, because we curve around the lake, right? We curve around the lake, and essentially they Sibuel and Hiroyon or whatever.
Soroyan, yeah.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
however,
yeah.
that's how I say it.
Yeah, they wanted to go for the gap, right? Who could
Yeah,
get,
they, that's
yeah,
what it's
closest to
like.
the
It's a
horde.
great like way that he kind of like sets the scene, because it's really like about the, it rolls back into like the this like whole foreshadowing of the meat, you know, and they've consumed it. So now in the very beginning of the book
See,
we were getting
this is a, no, hold
rumors.
on. I think this is something different, to be honest, than the meat. I think it's kind of included in hell and stuff, but Regolith is something that I really am interested in.
Yeah, no, for sure. The place, absolutely. But we see that like it says that like that the meat had some of these like ordeal men not like acting the most like you know what I mean. Yeah, and they
Gentlemanly.
were like not they were taking a lot of risks. You know what I mean? They were starting to
Right.
get fucking a little too bold in
Big
some
for the
areas.
britches.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and it
Bold is a
says
good
like
word.
not like no other instance really displays this better than the challenge between Soroyan and Sibawul, where they decide like okay fuck it, they're and we know that there's been an animosity between these two because Sibawul's even been whipped while trying to kind of outdo Soroyan's Famiri riders, and in bungling shit, so
Yeah.
there's
And
already
then he
this.
gets trapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the animosity there. And I love, though, that like Sibawul thinks he's got something on Soroyan because they know about that gap or whatever that they can travel into and get real far into the horde. Because the whole bet is
Mhm.
who can go
Because
farther,
they see the gap in the shroud or whatever, right? They see the dust not being
Yeah,
kicked up in
so
one
they
area or
know
whatever.
about that, and Soroyan
Yeah.
doesn't. So when Soroyan's waking up, Sibawul and the Sepulorians are already fucking balls deep in the fucking horde.
Funny that you bring that up too. Like Sir Wei, like the original, like Surwa's mother from Prince of Nothing. She was from Sepulor or whatever, and they were said to be born on horses. So they're kind of like the Rohirrim of
Yeah.
Bakers. Like, so I mean, it was kind of fitting. Sibel just doesn't know what he's gonna get into here.
No, and we
Yeah.
find out real quick, right? I mean, that's the thing. They get caught so far up in the horde. Even like Soroyan realizes this too, and he's like, "Fuck, they've gone too far." And when the
Yeah.
Sepulori start to figure it out, Sybil has him like calls him to go to Raolith. They're like fucking, so they like escape into hell on earth. Basically, it's a place where the Shrank don't even want to fucking tread.
Hmm.
Like literally, when
Hmm.
they're in there, they're watching Shrank like kind of like put a
It'd
tiptoe
be
on it
like
and like recoil back.
what's the World War Z movie where they're like climbing up the wall to zombies, but in this case they'd be like bouncing back at the top, or whatever. They wouldn't be
Yeah,
going
yeah,
in over
yeah.
the
That's
wall
a
or something.
great
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
Yeah, especially
yeah.
because of like the horde, like, ugh,
Hmm.
ugh. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well,
a,
and then you find out too that there was the city that was used literally for the console to keep people alive and breed generations of humans just to like use and like
just a
whatever they
feed.
needed for it, right? Yeah, like whether it
Just
was to put in the carapace or to experiment on or something, right? Like,
it's
yeah.
crazy though that it's like so I guess it's such a place that's stamped out that like not even Shrank want to go. I mean, I would just like that's a crazy concept to like try to think about because
But is that Topoi or is that
like,
something
but that's what
else?
I was like. I tried to ask somebody, was like, so is it like a topoi, like, like Mangetta or something? But I guess it's different. I don't know. Or is it? Because I mean, it's like, as we know, like the Sepulchre, like maybe safe from the Shrank at the moment, but obviously where they're standing is like all the fucking horrible vibes. And then when the
Hmm.
Coaling comes in, the fucking
Right. The
sorcerers
sorcerers. Yeah,
don't
yeah.
don't know that all these guys are there. So they're fucking fucking mobbing Shrank, and it just fucking pushes the
It's
fucking.
like the equivalent of like airstriking your own fucking men or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
that's pretty close. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Oh fuck, dude. And I mean that scene to me, like it's a lot. It's one scene I think a lot of people kind of maybe gloss over or just what I mean, because it might not seem like that important, but I felt like that was such a big scene for me in this series. It like the first time reading it, I was so glued to the pages.
Mhm.
Just fucking nightmare sauce, dude. And then we see, so then the Sepulori are out there. They're out there, on hell on earth, and they're stuck.
The whole world is strength.
Oh god damn, dude. Yeah, they're basically, I think it
Yeah.
describes it as like that, or it might be Dagliash that gets described as like it's like an island in the Shrank or the
Hmm.
sea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is so fucking horrific to try to imagine. Oh my fucking god, dude. But
Well,
then and
afterwards,
then you see Soroyan
Kellhus.
is actually the one who petitions for them to go rescue Civil,
Hmm.
which is
Yeah,
interesting. You know what I mean? And I like that kind of how it goes, because these are kind of
it's a bromance.
rivals, where then they're like there's like this little change in the relationship after this after the fucking challenge, but we see the Civil and the Sepulore come back, but they are not really back.
Yeah,
They're a
yeah.
bit different, and their preferred way to prepare shrank is by eating it raw in the dark.
After that, well, Kellhus like does an Iron Soul with him, right? He has a conversation with him, and he's like, "From now on, you do what you will in the ways of war."
Yep,
Right?
yep,
Like,
yep,
yeah,
yep. And
yeah.
they,
It takes one look at him. He's like, "Nope, you go do whatever the fuck you want, sir."
yep,
Like,
yep. And that's love it. And that's when you get that they're
Civil
eating fucking
Albaca.
shrank at fucking unlit fires in the dark, and no one wants to be around them. They
Nope.
know the shrank don't want to touch
Well,
them.
I was just gonna say we're gonna get there, or whatever, but the Shrank part before them, which
Yes.
is kind of where I'm working towards next, right?
Yeah, and that's so dope. I love that like imagery, and I love the line like all would fear the sons of Sepulor. Like I love
Yeah,
that shit. But
yeah.
the whole like shrank running from them, it also reminds me, I want to say it might be, I want to say it's Madros from like the Silmarillion, or just like, from the other works of Tolkien. I want to say he was like, I want to say it was him that was like the elf that had such like a fucking fury and like kind of hatred for the orcs, that they did a similar thing, or they kind of like fled from his fucking path. It,
Yes,
it's a
Tolkien racism or something.
yeah, it's so good. It's
It's
so good.
they even freeze, the strength freeze too. Like they just like kind of like don't know what to do as they're passing by. So I want to get to this point anyways, but so we have the point where Proyas and Caiutas are following the men of the ordeal. The sorcerers, which I some of the most amazing imagery in the books entirely is them taking the mountains, the four high points or whatever on the way to Dagliash. But when Proyas and Caiutas lose control of the ordeal, and then it's Civil and the Sepulorians that are starting that push, right? And they literally like they start getting angry because the Shrank won't come close enough to kill them. Right? Like, and then
Dude,
the whole ordeal follows, and eventually Proyas follows, and even Caiutas, I think, gives in at some point, right? Where they're like, people are like stripping off their armor and
yes, that's it.
like,
Like dudes
yeah,
are
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
just getting butt naked and going to fucking battle. I mean, that's like where it pops off. It's like going
yeah.
frenzy mode, dude. I
All the
love it.
all the way to Dagliash, right? And the horde is getting stuck against that river.
Is it the Sursa?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, they get caught like so. Again, we're moving on here in geography, but the sorcerers are taking the mountains, right? And this is where like mandate and like all this is like the real all the stuff we've been waiting for since like Warrior Prophet, essentially, right? When
Right.
like
Yeah.
sorcery pops
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
like,
Full on,
and
full
I
scale.
well, I'm just gonna say, and me and a number of people have talked about this over the years. This is one of the moments where Baker's just so very good at vistas that if you haven't seen mountains in your life, please go see some. Anyone listening, just literally just go see some, please. And then you imagine that lit with sorcerer's fire, right? And just like because there's all four mountains are literally being taken by sorcerers walking on the echo of the ground, and then they climb the mountains and they establish the eyries or whatever he calls them at the top, which is like literally like kind of like a base camp from the peaks, and then they're just blasting sorcery down over and over and over again as the ordeal like moves between the mountains and the oh, I forget what the lake's called there or whatever, but it's they the river Sursa feeds into it. The Cherish Lake, I believe, is something they call it. Like Crish maybe,
Hmm.
but the ordeal is moving through there and doing their weird ordeal stuff on the way to Dagliash. And then, and this is where we get into some real like interesting stuff, as the sorcerers are burning their hands on the mountain and stuff. Soban and the Swalyali taking Dagliash with
Oh,
Kellhus.
god damn.
Yeah,
Isn't that
we
cool?
gotta talk about that, man,
Yeah,
as we
and so
wind up
this
here.
is like
Like,
for
yeah,
me, like as much as because like I feel like a lot of people shine in certain books, and I felt like this was Saban's moment.
Oh yeah, swan
Like
song.
his,
Oh, of course.
what I mean? This is like I was just so blown away with it. I was like, man, fuck yeah, like this is good. Because I mean, even fucking like Saban knows like there's like some like he can sense like some traps and stuff that are like being set,
Mhm.
because they're like trying to take it. Fucking Kellhus even like tells him, he's like, don't worry about it, brothers. Like we're gonna fucking till this field or whatever, and but we kind of know that Kellhus has been fucking eating shrank too, so
And drinking sham, like sham was the drug that the Scarlet Spires or Iocus was addicted to. He's drinking sham laced ampoi, which is the like fish liquor that he gave to Akamian when he wanted him to like mess around with Sorcery or whatever, right? Like,
yes.
yeah, dude, like Kellhus is fully fucking microdosing, like
Yeah,
pretty
like
much
he's
everything he can get.
fucked up.
Like, it's very interesting to think about, but like seriously, even when like it's admitted in the narrative when he's drinking with the Proyas and stuff, right? Like he's just like all over it.
Yeah, he's fucked up.
Anyways, so they take the raft into Dagliash. This we have to spend a moment on this. We really have to spend some like, especially for people listening and watching, our little audience here or whatever. But they land, and I'm not going to remember all the names of the towers and stuff, whatever. But essentially, they land in important parts of old Dagliash and stuff, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is where the Wall of the Dead was in the dreams from Thousandfold Dot and stuff, right? Where they nailed Seswatha to like stare and contemplate the horns across the horizon and stuff, right? And they land and immediately like something's wrong. We got the Bashrag and the Shrank coming up through the foundations essentially, right?
Yeah, and when
Yeah.
they just fucking pop in, they explode and fucking like a horde.
Oh, like fucking ants or something, or
Yeah.
they something out of the walls, like well, literally out of the walls.
Right, and then
Yeah.
we also know that they got Kore.
Yes, yeah. But the Swalali can sense that. Not like Soban is kind of like him and Kellhus have this cool thing, which I actually liked with Kellhus and Nair in Darkness as well. But like, with a Dunyan, you can kind of trust that they're reading their faces or your face. So like it's like, okay, like, all right, you said that I trust your sense of perception or something. But Soban asks him, like, is something wrong, or whatever, and he's like, gird yourself or gird your loins or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then everything comes out. We have Kellhus do some majestic, like, ground pulling stuff, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like I remember the first time I read this, it was hard for me to kind of wrap my head around, and I got a clearer picture this time because I was just like, what the fuck is he doing? But I liked it because it was describing about like the fucking tower kind of almost like dematerializing, but instead of like falling downward, it's falling upward.
Yeah,
Like,
and this actually goes back to the false sun, to be honest. So this is when like the tower that he's pulling up is inaugural or whatever, and it's the one that Sayar Nanra and Orang collapse on Titirga in the short story.
okay.
Just as kind of like yeah. So, anyways, this is one of the short stories that's at the end of the Unholy Consult, but it was on Baker's blog. So when this is a deep dive, so apologies to everyone listening, whatever. But the Sohonk are the precursors to the Mandate. So they're one of the 12 ancient Gnostic schools that were like tutelaged by the non-men. And then Seswatha was, I believe, a student of the Sohonk and then goes on to found the Mandate as the second apocalypse happens. But Satirga was this ancient sorcerer who may or may not have done something with like the Shuk and Gnostic sorcery or whatever. But essentially, the Mangeka, who were another one of the ancient schools, who, Seonanra and Soriatis, like the main sorcerer for the console or human sorcerer, was the Grand Master of that school. Anyways, they collapsed the tower. So the tower that Kellhus is pulling out of the ground at Dagliash is apparently ruins built on ruins built on ruins, and it goes even back further to the non-men of Viri, who they didn't actually live in a mansion. They lived, and farmed above, like they actually like didn't dig deep to hide away from the gods. It's a whole thing. I'm just laying out breadcrumbs for anyone listening
Yes.
or whatever. But yeah, but essentially like the tower that Kellhus pulls up, to plug the holes is an ancient tower. But then they pull up the I forget what it's called, but it's this object that's
The
like
golden
gold.
coffer.
The coffer, yes,
That's the
yes.
golden coffer. And see, and also like during this shit too, it's like we're getting those bits from Saban, and he's just like really kind of blown away with this fucking madman that he has followed, to the fucking end of the earth.
And he loves it too. He's like full in like warrior, like
Yeah, he's
adrenaline
like
kind of
literally
like
like
yeah, yeah.
basking in the
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
moment. Like, he's
Well, I do agree with him. Like what other like if you could tell a story about your life, like really, like I was here in this moment or whatever,
yeah,
right?
and
Like I have to
that's a
respect him for that. Like
absolutely. And
yeah,
this is
yeah.
also why like being stricken from the fucking records would be such a huge deal because you want to fucking go down in history.
It's called the second death, right? Your first death is when you die. The second death is when no one remembers you or
Yeah,
the last
everyone.
person thinks
Yeah.
about you or whatever,
Yep.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay, so
Saban sees that fucking golden coffer,
what does it mean? What does it
god
mean?
damn. Immediately, like, so when I remember the first time reading it, I saw golden coffer, and I was like, I started wondering if, like, kind of maybe thinking about the sarcophagus or whatever back in fucking Golgotha at first,
Yeah.
but then like there's some descriptions that you get hit with, and you're like, wait a minute, is this, huh?
It
And
sounds
then,
like some kind of lattice around like an object or something,
yeah,
and there's like little matrix numbers on it or
yeah,
something,
and then he
right?
talks about, yeah, like the red script, the glowing red
Yeah, yeah.
script. And I was like, oh fuck. And
What does that mean?
yeah, he's
That
like, what
not
does
all
this
can be
mean?
saved.
He's
That not
like,
all can be saved.
he's
And
like,
then
yeah. But what do you think? Right? Yeah.
that is a good thing. And then he
Yeah,
fucking
that is.
like just ports out like, oh my goodness.
What
Dude,
a
that moment, like for a second, when I actually first read it, I thought, and I had read the draft of this actually as well. I thought that the thing had sucked Kellhus in. Like it was an attempt to capture Kellhus or whatever, right? And
gotcha.
obviously, like you realize it's transposition right afterwards. And then my other favorite moment in this is that he appears in the sky right after he ditches Soban, and he tells us the Swalali to like fuck off, like walk away or whatever. But
Yeah,
he
yeah.
yells to the ordeal like flee from Dagliash, like he's in the sky or whatever. And they're like, what? Like we're winning, aren't we? And it's like, no, run away.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. Flee.
yeah. And then
Yep.
obviously so essentially what happens here is that they eliminate the horde, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's the consult or the mutilated or Kellhus, and like thinking about this, and the mutilated, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but they later admit that they planned on like needing to eliminate some of that army. They just want Kellhus to get there, right? Like everyone's kind of working for the same goal, except it's Kelmomus, not fucking Kellhus, but that's a whole different thing, or whatever. But we'll get to that next book. So yeah, so the ordeal loses, like a good chunk of its army, and we have the Scalded and stuff,
Mm,
which become useful later because again, something must be eaten.
yes.
Uh, the Swalyali, unfortunately, are basically like decimated, right? Because they were the ones on the
Yeah,
raft with.
I want to say that there's still
They're
some,
still they are
because
there
there
are
are
still
some in Golgotha at the final
yeah
battle.
yeah
But yeah, no, I mean, like, what is it? I can't remember her name, but it's like the Swayali that was fighting kind of right next to Saban. She was
yeah.
pretty high up, I believe, like ranking wise.
She was the second to Surwa.
Yeah, right. Sir was like the grand mistress, or
I can't remember and comment on this because I'm sure one of my memories is wrong, but Baker actually did two alternative endings or different versions for her in terms of leaving her open or not in the draft. So I can't remember which is which, but I'm fairly sure that in the published version that she's still perhaps out there or whatever, but I'm not sure. Or the alternative. I have no idea. It's Schrodinger's Swalyali at this point. Um, and then obviously we have to acknowledge Soban's death.
yes, which is
Yeah.
was a lot easier for me to grasp the second time around. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
which was cool too because I had just read the whole thing, so I had was pretty fresh off of Mengetta as well. So
Mm-hmm.
putting those two pieces together, but I think that's just something that's most people that read this book, that's like one of their favorite parts is when he
Well,
kind of
it's such
he
a
gets
round off,
blasted
man,
into
from like
fucking hell.
but like thinking that Baker almost word for word had that from the Warrior Prophet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
It's
that's
it's,
what
it's
I'm like, dude. That's one of those things. And I remember we talked before of is like, was it in intention versus like happy accident, but it's like when that happened, and then Saban, he's in hell, blast into hell, and can see like through kind of like the thin veil or whatever, and he sees like the past, and he sees him
mhm.
past self, and he's like reaching, trying to fucking warn himself.
Don't trust him.
Yeah, which is
Don't
also
trust
really
him.
crazy
Yeah.
because right, like right before Saban gets blasted into hell, like he's at the peak of his belief, which he never
Hmm.
really had. It's such a
Hmm.
trip, right? Like the guy, the
Yeah.
non-believer, finally becomes full-fledged believer that gets blasted into hell, and he's like, "Oh yeah,
Isn't that when Kellhus gets you, man?
oops."
When you believe, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. But
exactly.
what an amazing part. I mean, and like I said, if that being planned all the way from book two is
Hmm.
pretty fucking badass.
The yeah, I gotta keep us on a good clip here or whatever. Um I don't want to dishonor Soban, but I feel like we've covered
Yeah.
Dagliash, right? Yeah, yeah. We've gotten across there, to the Blood Weeper, which is next time, whatever. Um, I feel like the only way, really, I mean, we do have to talk. Okay, hold on.
So there's two
Let's,
things, right? There's
yeah.
a commune and Mymara and the survivor and Crab Boy. Because there's and honestly, you would fucking probably know. So, even after two times of reading this shit, I still get a headache trying to understand the survivors like train of thought because he's like, trying to figure out the absolute and all that shit, and ends up killing himself uh for it, like because he kind of, I believe, like he figures the absolute is death, or the only way to obtain it is
The,
from the outside.
yeah,
It's confusing
I
to even after twice. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get it. This nope. I love his
this one
backstory. When he starts talking about
this one could be a
fucking
full
everybody up and shit.
this could be hours of
Yeah,
a
but that's the thing is,
dialogue.
yeah, I think that
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that section is so just kind of fucking mind fucky and bizarre that it's hard to understand. And yeah, you could talk about it forever because I feel like it's just so left open for speculation still. But I could be wrong. There could be somebody very smart out there that's like, no, dummy, it clearly says.
I think okay, I have a couple more points there, whatever, but honestly, I'm not even joking. I really do think that we might want to do like our own special, like one kind of thing on that alone.
Gotcha.
Um, because it there's 2 points to that. So when I was reading the draft of this and his other beta readers were reading it, essentially he almost didn't include that second survivor chapter, which I think would have been like criminal because it is, I don't know what it means necessarily, right? Like we can tease it out a lot, but uh I don't think the impact of the survivor would have made the same kind of impact. Yeah, I don't know if it would have made the same landing as landing. Oh, that's bad. That's a bad pun. But yeah, like he there's so much to digest there in terms of like the Dunyan being like wrong, right? Like just like fundamentally like at a cross section with the world that they are embedded in, perhaps. And then also the idea of the fraction breakdown, right? Where he is a dissembled creature in terms of not being whole or like synergy or coherent. I'm not really sure what word you want to use, right? We could go down that dive for a while, and I want to kind of put a pin on that because I really do think that we probably have maybe even a full fucking hour just on that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Which would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Wait, no, hold on. I do have literally we've got two more to do. So I'll start with the easy one. But we have Mon Men.
Yes. Okay, so Satma has
Because
rejuvenated.
we haven't done it in, I want to end
Yeah.
with this Ishterebinth. I
At
want to
this
end with this
point, like
Ishterebinth, right? So
at this point, Esmenet has been, you know what I mean? She's come on top of her, come out, alive after the trap, left the fucking, enemy wounded, but Satma does her little fucking, her little magic or whatever, right? And kind of like revives and gives Fanniel like a second shot, so to speak.
well,
Um,
there's also she heals Mapa.
yes. And that, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
he needs. Like, he
And
needs.
then there's also the earthquake.
Yes, and then we get the fucking earthquake. So I mean, obviously, this is doing like this for me. That was like I really love that there was the earthquake because I guess I just needed a little bit extra like kind of magic of the gods kind of happening.
Some
There's
thaumaturgy.
yeah, something a little
Uh,
bit more that just wasn't like, like, oh, we put some spit on your face or I fucked this guy and now there's a magic spell out there in the in the world. Like this was like, oh shit, it's like I could fucking sense an earthquake, so I could like really grasp that fucking power of the gods. And obviously some shit goes down during those earthquakes. So too, we see that during that time is when we lose Thaliopa or Thiliopa or whatever.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
she's
The White Luck Warriors
yeah,
just standing over
she's
her, and
she's
yeah.
kind of making her fucking stand against him, which I give her all the props in
And
the
this is
world.
right after she's kind of like figured out the Kelmomus and
Yeah,
stuff,
and she's
right?
the one that's
Yeah,
hip to fucking Kelmomus's fuckery, and he knows that too. So he's like wanting her to die, and the
yeah.
fucking
And he like
bookcase
he's
falls.
almost grateful for the White Luck Warrior at that point, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
But it's a gangster fucking moment. I felt like for Calliope to stand up to him because she knows who he is. But she
Mm-hmm.
still like kind of calls him out, whether it's like being stupid or whether it's just kind of like going out like proud. But she's just like, I'm an Anasarimber. Like, who are you? I love though. It's cold as fuck, but he's just like, I'm just the guy that was here.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just the guy that was
absolutely.
here when it
Yeah.
happens or whatever.
I'm
You're like,
just the guy that was
oh,
here that
and
when it
then it
happened.
fucking happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Clap.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Done. Done.
Kelmomas is in the vents and stuff.
And that's
Yeah,
another
yeah,
thing that
yeah.
kind of made me want. It was like, fuck, dude, Kelmomus was there again when another Anasarimber fell. So it was like another one of
Mm-hmm.
these things that kind of fucks with your, at least my head, about Kelmomus being like a Narinder or a White Luck warrior.
Well, let's move at this through a steady clip because I do want to end with this Terabith, whatever. But so after this, Kelmomas tracks the White Luck Warrior following Esmenet, and then well, we got two parts to do real quick here. So not real quick, whatever. But the first one is Kellhus showing up in
Yep.
Fanniel's camp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kellhus shows up and fucking takes.
Who wrote this?
Oh, dude.
Who's responsible for this?
Fucking smokes fucking Satma, right? Like brings
Yeah.
her like up in the fucking air and drops her.
Drops her on his ward, whatever. As he's like fighting Mapa, as he's
Oh,
like talking to Malawebe, just
dude,
like
yeah. I
having a
mean, he just
casual
shows up and
conversation.
just
Like, yeah.
flexes, dude. It's like it's not even a contest, really, is it? I mean, he's fucking fucks him up.
I do think there's a moment that if Malawebe had acted against Kellhus, like I know that Malawebe thinks that, but it very well might have happened where like they could have taken him if he had just like sang in
Yeah,
his
very
direction or
well. I
something.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
we know later
Never
on,
know.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fucking the hubris is ever the fucking fatal error of
yeah. Yeah,
fucking powerful men and women.
yeah. Some
Uh
of the pride before the fall or something.
damn, yeah,
Like,
absolutely. But so yeah, so then basically for Niles, does Kellus kill him right there?
yeah. I think he just takes him out pretty much immediately. Yeah,
Yeah,
essentially.
right.
Yeah,
Like so
yeah, yeah.
Satma and Fanal are fucked, but then also
Mapa comes in like swinging, and
yeah,
he's the last Shisharm or whatever. Apparently,
and then though Malawibi he gets fucked caught by Kellus though too, right?
Yeah,
This
because
because
he's got his like fetish sorcery, right? He's got
yeah,
two little things he's grabbing, and
but then we see
yeah,
like because I want to say Malawibi like watches like Kellhus create the like Malawibi clone or whatever, and
yeah.
he
So essentially, this is actually at the end of the book. It's like the epilogue or whatever. But so yeah, from Malawibi's perspective, his head gets cut off. He gets put on Kellhus's belt, and then Kellhus attaches the Chifrang head to Malawibi's body, and it creates his own face and stuff. And then he says,
go to the
basically,
Palace of
it's
Plumes.
yeah, Nangaku or whatever, and like Zasranga's father, he's like, go end the line. And
Yep.
Zasranga, as we know, is dead, hanging off a cliff somewhere in the north, the circumfix style. But yeah, that's, I mean, that is to me, when we talk about, possible plot points, a pretty much obvious one in terms of like something that could happen. Especially like I was talking to someone about this recently on the Discord, but at the start of Judging Eye, Theliopa says that the Saiothi, like the Zaomi skin spies, are new, right? So you would assume that's the work of the mutilated, since they like have been subsumed or taken over the console, whatever that is. But we'll debate that next time. But you have to assume that from Judging Eye, Zaum is infiltrated by skin spies,
Right.
and then now you've got Chifrang Malawebe going down there to like, can Chifrang see skin spies? I don't know. That's a whole other question, right? Like,
Fuck.
okay.
That is a good question.
Do you have like 20 minutes for a Eshterebinth?
Yeah. Absolutely. Because
Okay.
I mean,
So
even
let's
like to go to Ishterebinth, we are like winding it back again, but it's just the nature of.
No, I know we're doing this out of
That's
order.
fine.
So
That's fine.
we finished the ordeal, we
So
finished Monman.
in
Akamian
Ishterebinth,
and the survivor, like the survivor
yeah.
obviously queries out and dives off, and we'll do the survivor another time, whatever. But
So
Eshterebinth,
Ishterebinth, Sorweel is kind of like coming to consciousness or whatever,
the
like right,
Aeolus.
and he's like seeing or like hearing, like because he's being like questioned, and because like and then he realizes he's being questioned by the non-men, and that they can see the
Past the
non-men.
mask or
Yes,
whatever.
they
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see
They
past the
can, yeah.
mask, and so then there's this like kind of discussion between the non-men on what to do with Sorweel. And then ultimately they decide that he can kind of like be fucking like
They're
I guess
also in like the
brought in
thresholds or
front of
something it's
them, but
called, right?
he's gonna
They're
use
deep in
secret.
some kind of like maze that they think the gods can't see and stuff.
Yes,
Even though that ends up not being true, because Yatwer's Stork follows Sorwell basically the whole way down.
yes, yes. But just, so then we get to start meeting these fucking non-men though. And
Yeah.
for me, I remember the first I was like so excited, and then when I met them, I was like, these fucking douchebags.
Well, obviously Nin killed Jiris or whatever. Like
Yeah,
Nin,
Ninsel
yeah,
Jiris,
Nin
yes,
Jin's grandson or great grandson or whatever. Like he's sitting there being a dink. And then Oirinus or whatever. Like the lastborn, which I thought was really cool.
is it Oirinus or Oirinol? I think it's Oirinol.
Oirinol.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's the last
Oirinus
one.
is the
Oirinus is its
father.
father. Yeah, yeah.
We'll get there.
He's not bad. Like right, he's like the one that.
But he's like, he's got that whole shtick about like I was denied glory, so I would have my memory still, right? So like I've never had my battle or my crucible, which obviously he gets it.
Yes.
He gets he gets it. So he basically is like, I will mentor Sorweel or whatever it is.
Yeah, he'll be his
And
Siku.
and at this point, Sorweel doesn't know that he's got the Aeolus on, right? Like he doesn't understand that. Oh my God, what's his name? M Sarkis or whatever. The most violent of all he's like the Nair of the Encore or whatever. Like, isn't that the in M Sarkis or whatever? Like, it's the guy who occupies the
Is
Aeolus.
that who it is? He's
Yeah. So literally, he's literally the Nair of the non-member. But
yeah, okay,
as
that's it. Because he like Oirinol says something about how like it was like the way that
Nilgikas basically like told him he couldn't fight, or no, not Nilgikas. Kajaris and Mori basically told him that like he couldn't be so violent against the Inkori. Like he's the non-man
like
who got
his
told
way
off for being
was
yeah,
too
right, like
brutal. His ways were too brutal or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's
So,
right.
anyways, and then Neil Geekus said instead of being put to death, they would put him in the Amulus or something, right? And then it's a reminder. So apparently Seswath has worn it, and then we find out from Sorweel later that's the idea that I think this is in White Like Warrior, but that they've worn the Amulus more than once or whatever, like Seswath did, just like that's how they communicate with the non-men and stuff, and they skip the language barrier and stuff, which is a pretty brutal way to do that.
Yeah.
And then we go on Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, the Weeping Mountain, right?
Yeah.
Like and so the first time reading that was pretty tough for me to grab my bearings. I was like, what the fuck are we what's going on? Are we going like because there's like it's like when they land on the boatman's deal, it's like clack, 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 you know, and I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's a chain, but I'm like, so is
Yeah.
the boat like on the fucking chain being lowered down?
Yeah, that's what I think, man. All the way to the end when it like drops
Yeah,
off.
till it gets
Yeah,
into the
yeah, yeah,
mirror or whatever they call it.
yeah, yeah. And you don't. That's where the tall go when they get to like. And the tall, interesting enough, they're all like supposedly non-men heroes, right? Who grow in proportion to their heroic acts. That's from like a draft of the four revelations of Siniel Jin back in the day on Baker's blog. But the idea that the tall are literally like the most heroic of the non-men, but they can't abide by their cousins and their brothers and their siblings because they're just too again when Oirinus comes back up whatever it's like I suffer but one disorder, right?
Yeah.
Like they
Why
can't
do
but
you disturb
fixate.
my sleep right now?
Yeah, essentially. And so like that's why the boatman who's the oldest non-man apparently or he was the first to take the inoculation or whatever. And
Right.
he's
And
just like
he keeps
yeah, go
aging.
on.
Yeah. He just keeps aging. So he's like, he
And won't
looks
fucking die. Yeah.
old as fuck. And he's crazy as hell too. And he's pitching fucking pigs off the fucking boat and stuff.
But it's the fathoming, right? Apparently they used to like the non-men would do that once a year to like keep themselves like whole or whatever. And then obviously like
Well,
and I love
they're
that.
talking about that too. They're like, well, why does he
Yeah.
fucking still do this? So, you know what I mean? And one of the things, like I think it's Oirinol that says, like, it's like not sure if it's just his feet that are fucking.
Right. Just remember, yeah.
Yeah,
The other part of that too, though, is like, and I think the more important part to Sorweel and the Amulus is like, so when do we send them to hell? Right? Because they're trying to figure out a way to like find oblivion, redemption, perhaps, if such a thing exists.
right,
But
right,
when do we send them to hell, Manling? Right? Like when do you decide to
right.
there are no non-men suicides,
Yeah, and
and
that's
that's
when
when like
we get hit with that
right,
because they're
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
the people leaping off of the fucking deal or whatever,
Well, they're
and
being like thrown off or whatever
yeah,
by
and then
by ninja jewelers and
and
stuff.
he's
Yeah,
saying he's like, what, are they suicides? And fucking that's when we get hit. But Oirinol's like, no, a non-man can't commit fucking suicide. And when you
yeah.
really put that together with like how they live their lives at this point, which is pretty much just fucking suffering, uh, you're imagine that being just like your entire life is suffering and you
You
have
got the boatmen coming tossing you fucking pigs.
and you're not like they're immortal, right? So it's like
Yeah. Well, it's the gloom and then the dolor, right? It's
yeah,
just
the
like
dolor. Oh
yeah,
man.
it's like it's Alzheimer's or dementia, and then you get violent with it because you're a fucking non-man or whatever, right?
God damn. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. It's a pretty brutal existence.
So, anyways, to round this out, because I feel like we're getting to the end of this one. They get down to the mirror
Yes.
and Oirinol, and there's something about fathers and sons, but when did fathers become dragons, right?
Oh,
Like 10,000 pig skulls. Why have you come to me, right? Like
yes, dude. He's definitely been down there eating some swine.
yeah.
And I love there's something that like right before they like he goes and talks to his dad, like Sorweel and Oirinol have like a little quick saying. He said, and it's something about like
You just have to get one message to my dad or something. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the
He's like,
Vile have taken over the
yeah,
mansion or
like
whatever,
to
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah,
that, like
yeah, yeah,
so fucking because I didn't necessarily see the shit coming where fucking Oirinus smokes his own son, right?
yeah.
I'm like, what? Oh fuck.
And then because he's lucid for a second, it's like, why did I just do that? Why
Oh,
did I
God.
kill my own son?
Oh,
And
God,
like,
dude.
Sorwell's like, the file have taken over the mansion. Like,
Yeah.
the
He's
vial,
running around with the fucking ameolus shining in the
yeah.
dark.
And
Fucking
then Oirenes rips the amulet off, which whatever.
yeah. So the first time I read
Yeah.
that, I thought he ripped his fucking
He
head
died.
off.
Everyone did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone thought that he got fucking
Oh
like
my
KO'd.
God. I was so like, what? I like went back and read it like 3 or 4 times just to
And
like,
so this is the perfect place to end this one for sure, because I think that people are going to be like well impressed with the territory we've covered. Even though again, we could do like 100 of these and probably
yeah.
not cover everything, whatever.
Yeah.
But so the non-men court, and they
Yes.
go back up, and they're dragging Surwa out.
Yes.
She's got the gag in, right? So the Dunyan, like she can't Dunyan the non-men or whatever. And Moangus is there being tortured, and they're tied down, and they're all like literally like pulling lots on who gets to abuse them, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like,
They're being
and
real
then
fucking
and
elitist
then and
fuckwads.
then Oirenes stands up on the platform, right? And he's like a multiple non-men taller than everyone, and he's like, like Ninconjuris is like,
Yeah, he's like Oiron,
like
Lord Oiron is. What
we
are
haven't
you
seen
doing
you in
here?
so long,
Yeah, they're all
and
like
he's like,
bathing in oil and shit too. Like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
shit.
I suffer but one disorder, and it's like, how did a puppet of the vial come to occupy Nin Yogikas's throne or Nilgakis's throne or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah,
and then they pop off. The Korra gets thrown, and then Sorweel gets dropped, and he pulls out Surwa's gag, and then you
tells her to
assume
sing.
Surwa just fucking rocks shit.
Yes, dude. Yes.
Yeah, Oirenes sets Ninkeljuris on fire too. Like he strikes this sword on the roof of the chamber or
Dude,
whatever,
it's
and
a yeah,
all that
it's a
oil
fucking
goes up.
bloodbath real quick. It's fucking
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's awesome.
I actually like a lot of that stuff about Baker's stuff about presenting it off screen. Like, like obviously between this and TUC, and a lot of people get upset about this, but we didn't get to see that kind of battle.
Yeah.
The fall of like even one of my favorite quotes is Oirenes being like, this is our cannibal fate. Like it was always doomed to be the non-men, just kind of like, and we'll get to next book when they actually like show up and whatever. So you assume that something must have been sorted out at Ishterebinth or whatever, but
Right.
all right. Let's wind this down because I'm pretty sure we almost have like 2 hours.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. People were spoiled, Red. People were spoiled. I hope that everyone enjoys these. Like,
Yeah. I think they do.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll do TUC, and then one more after that, probably, or something, and maybe a
One
special one
kind
for
of
the
wrap it
Survivor.
all kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. And obviously we'll do more content, but you've got your own generalized, stuff going on.
Yeah. Life is happening.
Yeah. Very good, sir. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're thriving out there. All right. Well, anything else you want to pop on at the end there?
We do know, I guess, like as far as though too, with the going back to Momin, the whole deal with the Narinder, Kelmomus, and Kellhus moment, which I have to admit, like that first time reading it, I was like, what the fuck happened? Did Kellhus die? Did fucking Narinder die? Did what the
right.
Kelmomus fucking what the fuck?
Right, we did miss that part, didn't we?
Because it's a lot of it's once again another moment where just shit is popping off. It's chaotic as fuck, and
he likes to leave things ambiguity or ambiguous.
And I feel like
right?
it is kind of ambiguous until you start the next book, and you're like, oh,
but TUC kicks off right away.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Anyways,
yeah, that's about it,
stuff, my sir.
Yeah, right on, brother. Sweet.
Everyone, follow him.
Yeah,
like subscribe.
Follow us.
My goodness.
Right on, guys. Stay tuned, and we will fucking be hitting you with part 4. Hopefully next week. So keep an eye out for that. Till next time.